the triple network model for stable pathology, because they're finding that for like almost every disorder, there is a dysfunction somewhere within these three networks and how they interact with each other. Like when I was talking about how there's loose connections with PTSD, that's because there's a dominance between these two networks and an underdominance in this one. And so it kind of induces like a state of panic, like that's prolonged. And then like with major depressive disorder, this has dominance over these other two networks. And so that kind of just makes people more numb to the outside world. And yeah, like just about any of them, like there's something wrong within these three networks and how they interact with each other that underlies all of that and just underlies the way you pay attention to stuff too.
I have to admit, as an English teacher, when you're talking about story and comprehension and those things, I'm like, well, this might be explain why sometimes kids are getting it when we're doing analysis and interpretation of literature and understand. Because I like the psychology too, but I was all into, this could be, how's that going to apply? Can we address that?
The angular gyrus, I was like really interested about that when I was doing research for that, because if you stimulate that part of the, and I wanted to talk about this, but I just didn't have time.
Yeah.
If you stimulate it enough, it can induce an out-of-body experience. Like they were like stimulating it with transcranial magnetation, and one woman reported like a shadowy version of herself standing behind her, and then there was another one that perceived to be floating on the ceiling. And so they think that part of the brain has something to do with like a discrepancy between your actual location in your body and your mind's perceived location in your body.
And then, of course, they're probably going to take that into spiritual realms of near-death experiences and out-of-body experiences and things like that.
Yeah, there was so much that I wanted to include in that talk, but I had to cut out. Like I had to make so many cuts. When I sent my first outline to Dr. Wilson, she was like, "I think this is great, but this sounds like the outline for a 50-minute talk." And like when I first did it, it was 18 minutes, and we were supposed to be at 12, and I think I still went over like a minute or two over, but I was like, oh,
It was 14.
It didn't feel like it, though.
No,
it was 14 minutes.
it was 14 minutes after the questions.
Oh, right. So,
Is the angular gyrus, is that overactive in like hallucinogens? Is that the,
Yep. and yeah.
So then it shuts down like the central executive more and like for hallucinogens, do you know? Or,
No, for
or is it
hallucinogens, there's a suppression of this.
Okay.
And there's a suppression and a dominance of it because there's like this is what's active, but it just kind of brings it on the same level as all the other attention networks, and so you can make more like connections that you weren't able to before because you're so set in your ways. It kind of enables that state of like unconstrained cognition where it's like everything everywhere all at once.
So does it bring it closer to the level of consciousness where you're aware of it? Is that why it's...
It's
you're
almost like
making-
a hyper awareness.
Okay.
Is it? Yeah, because I was wondering about the effects of stimulants. Because like one thing I ran into a lot, people on methamphetamine here, Washington State, wherever I went, they always talked about the shadow people. They would see shadow people.
Yeah.
And it made me wonder, like, if that was a reaction of the stimulant in one of those cortexes.
Yeah, and that was one of the things that was kind of difficult about that second question, is because I could see it going both ways, where this is overactive, but I could also see it being underactive, where it's like same way with PTSD, where these networks are so active that everything becomes relevant. So yeah, it was kind of a difficult question to answer.
I thought you fielded it really well.
Yeah. I would assume that they probably interact similar like in schizophrenia is what I would think.
Yeah, because schizophrenia is just kind of like a surplus of dopamine.
So I bet it's the
Meth-induced
same.
psychosis looks a lot like an auditory visual hallucinatory
Yeah, and a lot of people do that.
schizoaffective person.
Yeah. So they probably interact about the same is what I would assume.
It's so interesting because I don't know, 10 years old or something like that, but how much it seems to be an umbrella over so much of what is going on for us psychologically, and nobody ever talked about it before. I'm like looking at it thinking, that just relates to so many of our
like there's
Dysfunction
a lot of
and
applications
functional,
for
yeah.
this, which made it so exciting to be able to do it and to hopefully do more research on it in graduate school.
Yeah.
Because I'd love to be able to publish papers that involve stuff like this, because this is huge for the field I'm going to be studying, which is like phenomenology.
Yeah.
Well, there's just a ton of practical applications
Yeah.
across the board.
Yeah, it's very recent, but like huge. So I'm really excited to see where it goes. I really hope I get to contribute to it.
So someday when you're famous and you're the author writing the textbooks, we can say, yeah, we saw that guy when he did his thing at
It was-
bachelor's degree.
It was crazy because when I was doing my graduate interview for my school, I had to tell them what the default mode network was because they hadn't even heard about it.
Oh,
Wow.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
Definitely space for research on it.
that's right.
Yeah.
Textbook author, right?
Because that's
Nothing else should be on the investigative discovery shows.
I get my like 45-second.
Yeah, but then they find you and they put you in every single show.
Yeah.
Every single thing. It's, oh, get that guy. You know the one that was on?